Hello and welcome to another session of dedicated improvement and reflection time. Today we're going to be thinking about how you can prioritise your paragraphs, how you can have an argument running throughout your paragraphs so you've got a more captivating and clear argument running through your essay. So there are three main steps that I would suggest. Number one, before you start writing your essay, make sure you plan. Jot down the key factors you're going to discuss. Number two, before you start writing, also rank the importance of these factors. So make sure you know what you think the most important factor was, or the most important difference or reason, or whatever it happens to be that you're comparing. Then start to write your paragraphs and try to have your paragraphs in priority order. So from the most important factor to the least important factor, or from the biggest change to the smallest change, or most significant thing to the least significant thing. And as you write your paragraphs, refer to the relative importance of other factors. So this means saying things like, the most important factor was, or this was more important than, mention another factor that you've talked about, because, or this wasn't as important as a cause as something else you've talked about, because, or this was equally significant as something else you've talked about, because. This is comparing how important different things were as a cause, or comparing the significance of different events. And it shows you're comparing the relative importance of different factors, which is an A grade skill. Okay, the next thing that I would suggest that you do is to jot down your key factors. So let's start with jotting down key factors. So imagining the question you've been asked is, was the Russo-Japanese War the main cause of the 1905 revolution? Well, I've jotted down 4 things that you could include as key factors in this question. Was the Russo-Japanese War the main cause of the 1905 revolution? Well, I'm definitely going to have to discuss Russo-Japanese War as a cause of the revolution. I'm also going to discuss famine and poor working conditions and social and economic conditions as a cause of the revolution. I'm also going to discuss desire for political reform and how that caused the revolution, as well as Bloody Sunday as being a cause of the revolution. So I've jotted down the key factors that I want to discuss. The next thing I need to do is rank the importance of these factors. So let's say I'm going to say that Bloody Sunday was the most important factor, the Russo-Japanese War as the second most important factor, desire for political reform as the next most important factor, and then famine. You could obviously have these in any order. I've randomly selected. Once you've decided which is the most to least important factors, then you can start writing your essay, and I would suggest that you start writing it with the most important factor first. So you could start by saying Bloody Sunday was the most important cause of the 1905 revolution, not the Russo-Japanese War, and then you go on and explain why you believe that's the case. Your second paragraph could start with, this was more important than the Russo-Japanese War because, and then you talk about how the Russo-Japanese War maybe was a cause and why it wasn't as important as Bloody Sunday. Then start your third paragraph. In contrast, desire for political reform wasn't as important as either the Russo-Japanese War or Bloody Sunday as a cause because, although it blah 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 blah, it wasn't as important because. Then finish with your least important factor and explain why it wasn't as important as your other factors. This way you're setting your essay up so it's easy for you to compare the relative importance of the factors you're discussing. The other thing it's important to do when you are prioritising your paragraphs is making sure in your link you make some kind of explanation as to why you think the factor was more or less important than other factors. So let's have a look at this student's paragraph. It's a paragraph from the essay that I referred to earlier in this podcast, and let's see whether or not they've managed to make any links to the relative importance of other factors in this essay. The Russo-Japanese War was a significant catalyst for the 1905 revolution. For example, the military losses at the Battle of Tsushima and the loss of Port Arthur, an important trading place, and destruction of 2/3 of the battleship fleet led to the mutiny on the battleship Potemkin. Although this mutiny was only aboard one ship, it shows that the army was seriously beginning to question the Tsar's ability to rule. In this way, the Russo-Japanese War was a catalyst for the 1905 revolution, as it damaged the Tsar's reputation, as it showed he had damaged the economy and made poor military decisions and was not a capable military leader. In some ways, this shows the Russo-Japanese War was important in creating an environment in which revolutionary protest was more likely. However, the lowered morale and level of protest caused by the Russo-Japanese War was not as significant as that caused by the events of Bloody Sunday. So, in this essay, has this student referred to the relative importance of factors? Well, they have started to do that. They've mentioned that the lowered morale and level of protest caused by the Russo-Japanese War was not as significant as that caused by the events of Bloody Sunday. So they have started to compare the relative importance. Perhaps what they could have done to extend this was to mention why it was not as significant. So they've mentioned briefly that the level of protest wasn't as significant. Perhaps they could say, give a figure such as the 500,000 people who were protesting in Bloody Sunday, as opposed to the one ship in the in the Russo-Japanese War. So they could potentially adapt this, but they have started to talk about the relative importance of their factors in their link sentence here. Have a look back through your essay. Think about whether or not you jotted down your key factors and ranked their importance before you started writing. Have you included sentences such as these ones here to refer to the relative importance of factors in your essay? And have you an explanation within your link as to why this was a more or less significant factor than the other ones you've been discussing? Good luck in your exam.